Okay, now you can see already set up most of the landscape, and I decided to go on a different route and change a bit the location of certain things from my concept. I also expanded the houses because it used to be just one house, but as well just use the pieces that I have to build the other houses and make some sort of village. Now, there's definitely a lot of unfinished parts, and right now I'm just figuring out lighting. I'm figuring out if the colors work. I had to change the colors of the rocks, adjust some materials, and yeah, I was going for a bit of a that rugged terrain in Iceland. Um, I think it's coming across very well. So now I'm setting up some camera shots. For example, I have this shot right here, and it's important to choose your camera angles from the beginning, so you only polish what you see on the camera. I mean, in a game, it's different since the character moves around a lot everywhere, so you want to polish as much as you can. But for this one, it's big picture so far. If I want to show, for example, the landscape or the terrain, with I might have to blend in and have better materials, spend some more time there. But for now, um, I think it reads. Just need some more polish, some adding some personal details that make this village what it is. Okay, so here are the houses. As you can see, I it's still missing a lot of personal details, but the bones of the house or the overall architecture is there. When I decide to make a close-up shot where the character walks through the holes, I might add more props, more details. Well, let's look at the other house. This one is simpler, just using some of the same elements. I might still add some windows at the top. And here's another one. I think I like this one the best. This just looks more chunky, funky looking. I might do something with this later, personalize it. So these are the three houses out of a few tilers that I made in the beginning. And this just show you the power of tilers and how you can use them to make larger pieces of architecture. Let's see some of the grass that I found on Megascans. Since I'm going for a very rugged environment, there's very little, or there's not trees at all in the areas that I was looking. There's just small bushes and stuff that can grow on that harsh rocky terrain. And as you can see here, I'm noticing something. There's pops in the LODs. So the way to fix that is you go to the LODs, type LOD, and then add custom, and you scroll down and then just change that number of zero point 0.9, maybe zero point 0.4, and test it out and see if it works. Yeah, there's a little bit of pop in the second one still. So I go to the second one and let's say maybe zero point 0.6. And yeah, that fixes it. So just in case your Megascans assets come with a little bit of that pop in the LODs, this is the way to fix it. I pretty much have to do that for all of them. All right, so let's start building our environment. So I like building is a little corner first, just to give me an idea of the pieces that I'm gonna need. And so instead of testing it on a big scale, let's just test it in a smaller scale, right? It's called a beautiful corner. I'm gonna add first the big blocks. What and I will be using the same rock first. try to reuse as much as I can. And what I like to do is instead of like having a very flat wall of rock, I like to have like tiers so I can add a little bit of a grass at the top. Of course, now things look very repetitive and noisy, so um, maybe just playing with the shapes. I will be adding more rocks just to break that repetition. For now, I'm just trying to see what works. I want to create some crevices so the light, when it comes, it creates a little bit of shadows, make it a little bit more interesting to see. So I try not to scale as much, like maybe 10% of the actual rock. I've seen some artists going crazy, scaling a lot of their assets, and that is okay, I guess, for the one picture that you're trying to take. Nobody's gonna go and look at it from up close, but you don't want to stretch too much the pieces because it would lose its textile resolution, and then you will find that this one rock looks sharper than the other one is because either somebody stretched it beyond its resolution, or the asset was bad to begin with. Right now, just gonna add a little bit of the terrain. Uh, just add a little bit of a fall off by the base. I'm thinking maybe there could be some of those geyser stuff in here, um, just to test my geysers. And also, I made this rock that it's perfect for edges along rivers and stuff like that. So you gotta be when you make your rocks, it's always you always want to make different styles of for the areas. For example, um, the bigger chunks go vertical, and I have these chunks that just sit on the edge, and I give it a little bit of that steppy look. Now, just trying to buffer that transition. And again, some of these pieces came out of two rocks, I think. Uh, I just boolean stuff, and that's how I ended up with all these interesting shapes. Yeah, it does look a little bit noisy, but once you add the blankets, for example, I made this blanket, I displaced it in ZBrush from a tiler, and I like to add these ones just so there's a little bit of a ramp, and I can add some foliage on top of the rocks. So it's the foliage is not just growing on top of the rocks, but it's actually there's actually dirt in between, mini terraces. And now that I have the big shapes, I'm going some rubble pieces to add a little bit of break that the big shapes to the middle medium shapes. Place my rubble near the edges. Maybe a few single ones here and there. So I wanna match that the direction of the rocks. So if a rock it's got a different direction, I rather not use it. Right. I think it's time to fix our camera and establish a shot with what we have. Just let's get our Cine camera. Let's fix it. More or less, it's pretty foggy. It's the light in the post processor. I have to fix it. All right, let's frame it. I think. I mean, for testing purposes, I think it's fine to have whatever it is on the shot. And now I'm gonna be placing the micro details, like the smaller pebbles, smaller boulders, small stuff. So you have your big shapes, your medium shapes, and your detail. All right, let's paint some grass. I'm just gonna add the grass for now, anywhere that I think appropriate. So far, I don't know yet where. So I'm thinking maybe there's a little bit of a rolling hill. Let's add this other variation. Yeah, I still have to fix some of the colors on these things. I don't like certain textures. I need to keep testing the recipe. Terrain itself is really hard, especially because there's so much variation in the terrain. There's dirts, pebbles, puddles, and terrain with larger rocks. Especially when you add larger rocks, you can definitely notice something flat. So uh, for this example, I'm not using any displacement. Um, I just feel that once you add all the foliage, you're never gonna notice that the terrain is pretty flat. Especially because I'm adding a lot of that, a lot of the chunky rocks that I have just jamming in there. I'm still moving around this post processor, building those skirts. All right, so here it is with the new system. It's a little bit flat, but I think I I ended up moving the bloom or something in the post processor, and now it looks pretty shiny. The manipulator just gonna have to deal with me with this for now. And now we're bringing the drapees, terraces. Try to fit it in there. I'm not sure if they make sense, but they add just a little bit of that um, organic shapes in there because everything is just so rigid. Okay, let's add a ramp so we can um, make the path for the water to flow. So I have this water that I downloaded from or bought on Rail Marketplace. You just need some adjustment, the material. All right, it's a bit fast. I'm gonna use this for probably the river. Especially, it looks faster just because I am speeding up the video, but it looks slower. Let's add some rocks nearby, near the water, the edges. And this is when you would have a little bit of mud nearby, mixed with rocks. And I have this blanket that has all that detail of gravel detail. I'm just gonna place it on the edges. I'm still missing to add wetness to the landscape material, but I will add that later. All right, now let's add some grass. So now the grass that I got from Megascans, I pretty much I made larger clumps because the clumps that came were too small to make that puffy look that I wanted. So I ended up making larger chunks to make it look very patchy and puffy. And I think it comes across very well at here, there, and everywhere. Grass pretty much grows almost anywhere, I guess. Right, it looks a little bit flat, so I'm gonna add maybe a couple lights just to make things pop a little bit more on the rocks. I mean, the reason that I didn't cover lighting in this tutorial is because, yeah, it's really hard and it takes more than a 10-minute video to show you lighting. All right, let's add some color, a little bit of that eye candy, just to give it a little bit more interest in color variation. Add some bushes because it was looking a bit too yellowish. Again, all of this I found in Megascans. Okay, we are ready to make our sequence. So I'm gonna fix the camera more or less where I want, and then I'm gonna go to add level sequence. We're gonna name our sequence and put it in our sequences folder, and you're gonna get this pop up, and just drag your camera. All right, let's drag our camera here into the mix. Okay, and let's extend the slider. So now we need to make sure we are in seconds so we understand better. So it's 10 seconds video, and make 10 seconds. Let's drag this timeline or this stopper all the way to the 10-second line. And we also need to extend the film all the way to the end. So those three things. All right. And then we're going to select our camera, just the camera, and don't select anything else. You have to select the camera, and then you're going to go to the transforms, and we're going to add the key to the transforms, not to the camera itself. All the way to the bottom. There you go. I'm gonna add a 2-second buffer, and you will see why afterwards. So I'm gonna stay there for 2 seconds, and then after 2 seconds, I'm gonna make my camera move, more or less. Trying to position it so you don't you don't see the rest where I didn't make anything. So more or less like that, and then move it again. Move the slider. and then move the slider all the way to the end and move the camera. There. Okay, so let's test it. Awesome. Yeah, of course, it would have been better if I had added a little bit more to the foreground, but it's okay. And then we're gonna render the movie. Compression quality, I don't think it goes more than 100. Let's see if it does it. And we just say capture movie has to be 30 seconds for the filmic style. Now there was a problem with the thing is that our levels should be always loaded when doing these things. Otherwise, sometimes they won't render in the shot. So let's go to the levels and enable them always loaded. Okay, so I think that's it. There's all loaded. Except for the house. Although the house is not going to be here, but I'm just going to keep it loaded all the time. And now let's render the movie. All right, and this is why we added the 2 seconds, just because there's always that pop of light. Lumen is doing some work in the background. All right, we now finish our first corner of a big environment. And if you replicate this everywhere, it's going to look awesome. So the next part is pretty much detailing everywhere, adding decals, effects, vertex paint, and wrap up lighting. So let's continue working. We're almost at the finish line.